Ayy, look, ayy. I'm in the lab like Dexter, brand new batch he tested. I'm with all the extras, don't try and bitch, I'm pressure. I'm the type to step on steppers, I'm the type to step on steppers. I'm the type to step on steppers, I'm the type to step on steppers.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the New Media Podcast. I'm your host, Ya. We hope you enjoyed the last episode because, as always, today's going to be an even better episode. Of course, I got the whole crew with me, as you guys can see. And today is finally that time. It's that time of the year where football is right around the corner. And we haven't talked about football since the NFL draft, so it's been a while. So today we're going to be getting into a little bit of football. This is going to be an all-football episode. All the episodes to come after this will probably be majority football as well, as the season gets a little bit closer to the start. So on today's agenda, what we got is we're going to be predicting the NFC East, giving our game-by-game predictions for each and every team in the NFC East. Everybody has an assigned team, so everybody will give their predictions for their specific team that they got. Then we'll go ahead and talk about whether or not we believe the Cowboys will win the NFC next year. We'll go ahead and also talk about what do every NFC East team need to do to be successful this upcoming season. And then we'll also close it out with Saquon Barkley and his contract situation with the New York Giants. But of course, before we jump into all of that, temperature check, how's everybody doing?
It's that time, man. Time to talk about the NFL, man. We're here.
Man, it's been a while, man. I can't wait, man. A couple more weeks till preseason starts. And man, we got some good predictions going on. I can't wait to get started. So, man, let's get it started. Come on.
Yeah. Football season is right around the corner. I'm more of a basketball guy than football, but at the end of the day, it's better than nothing at this point. We're pretty much midsummer now, late July, about to be early August in a couple of weeks. We'll have some football to watch and more football to talk about. So I'm excited to jump right into our agenda today. And let's go ahead and start off with the reigning NFC champions, the Philadelphia Eagles. Those guys came off a Super Bowl run, coming up a little bit short against the Kansas City Chiefs. And so now they look to run it back with the majority of their same core and also a few new added pieces with DeAndre Swift and all those boys. And Abdi has the luxury of letting us know each and every game and each and every winner. So I'll go ahead and read out the teams, and you just let me know the matchups, and you go ahead and just let me know win or loss. Let me go ahead and pull up their schedule. I have it right in front of me, and we'll go ahead and start off with Week 1 versus the New England Patriots.
That's a win.
Week 2 versus
Week
2 versus the Minnesota Vikings.
That's also a win.
Week 3 versus Tampa.
That's also a win. Tampa suck.
Week 4 versus Washington.
Is this at Philadelphia? If this is at Philadelphia, I think Philadelphia wins this.
Week 4 matchup is at Philly.
I will give Philly this one.
Week 5 on the road versus the Los Angeles Rams.
The Rams suck, so give me the Eagles in this one.
Week 6 at the New York Jets.
This one might be a little interesting. I think they play the Dolphins the next week. I want to say I'm going to give the Jets this one. If this one's in New York, I'm going to give the Jets this one. I think they're going to lose this matchup.
Week 7 versus the Dolphins at home.
And they lose this one as well.
Week 8 at Washington.
They lose this one.
Week 9 at Dallas. At home versus Dallas.
They win this game.
Week 10, they have a bye. Week 11 at Kansas City. Rematch of the Super Bowl.
They lose this game.
Week 12 at home versus Buffalo.
They win this game.
Week 13 at home versus the Niners.
The Niners, they're going to be coming in for a vengeance, but I still like the Eagles way more than the Niners, so give me the Eagles.
Week 14 at Dallas.
Oh. Divisional games, you like to split them up, but they're going to do the double on Dallas. Give me the Eagles in this matchup.
Week 15 at Seattle.
They win this one.
Week 16 at home versus the Giants.
They win this game as well.
Week 17 at home versus the Arizona Cardinals.
Probably not a game that they'll take serious, but the Cardinals are going to suck regardless this season. It's probably going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL. Tank for Caleb Williams, give me the Eagles.
And then they close out the season Week 18 on the road playing their division rival, the New York Giants.
I feel like at that point, the Giants are going to be a team that's fighting for a wild card position, and the Eagles are going to be sitting their team. I'm going to say they're going to lose this game.
Okay. That pretty much wraps up the Philadelphia Eagles game by game prediction. So what do we have him at? Where do you have him finishing if we count up all these?
I want to say it was 12-5. I want to say it's 12-5 or 13-4. Because I know I have the Jets going to be a loss.
You said the Jets and Dolphins.
Yep. I have the Kansas City Chiefs as well.
That's another loss. You said they were going to lose. Did we count the Giants that you said at the end of the season was going to be a loss? Right?
Yeah. Yep.
That's 4.
Did you say the Bills?
I said they're going to beat the Bills.
They beat the Bills. So the Dolphins, Jets, Giants,
and
Chiefs. That's 5 so far. Did you say the Cowboys?
Did
you pick one of the Cowboys?
He said they were going to do the double on the Cowboys.
You said
and
Dolphins, Jets.
The Washington Commanders that you said that you had them losing?
I had them one game Commanders.
Okay. So you have them rounding out their season at 12-5. I mean, when I did my own personal prediction, I kind of had them rounding out there as well. 12-5, 22nd easiest schedule in the league. Their schedule for this upcoming season isn't really the easiest, and it's not really the hardest. But
what was last year?
I think they'll go 14-3 if Jalen Hurts can stay healthy. They were on pathway for that towards the end of the season last year, but he got hurt for 2 games. He didn't play for 2 games. So for me, I don't see the fall off. I don't see the fall off.
I just mean like way down. Like that's like how I like maybe would they finish 14-4?
Last year I forgot what it was. I think it was 13-4 last year.
Yeah,
I think it was 13-4 last year. So I mean, for me against the Dolphins and the Jets, I feel like those are 2 winnable games if they can come in, especially with the type of offense they have, they're only building on, and the defense that defense is still phenomenal, and they picked up some nice gems in the draft. So I got them going 14-3.
The only reason why I don't see the Eagles, winning that many games in comparison to what they did last year is because I think their main objective is to just pretty much try to stack up as many wins as possible up until this like that second half of the season where they got to play all these tough teams. They got the Cowboys. They have the Chiefs, the Bills, the Niners, the Cowboys again. Seattle's still no slouch. And then they have the 2 division games to end off the season in a matter of 3 weeks against the New York Giants. And so I think at the end of the day, 12-5 is probably where they're going to finish, because last year when they were reeling off wins and they were going undefeated, that I personally feel like they kind of gassed themselves out. And it also ended up leading to Jalen Hurts getting injured. So, I think 12-5 is probably where I probably have him at. And with the NFC being so wide open and only really being a 2-3 team race at most, it's not really going to be much big of a difference, in comparison to last year. I don't think they're going to be going all super try hard mode. It's not a lot of competition. Regardless, that those guys are going to make the playoffs, and it might take 12, 13 wins in order for them to kind of get that home field advantage when they play, in comparison to the other 2 teams that are going to be competing for that top spot. But aside from the Philadelphia Eagles, we'll go ahead and move on to the New York Giants, and that the pleasure goes to Big H to give us our picks for that, and I'll go ahead and call it out again. So looking at the schedule, we got week 1 at home against the Dallas Cowboys.
That's an L. They're starting off the season with no Saquon. Maybe it's going to be a tough matchup facing the Cowboys.
Week 2 on the road versus the Cardinals.
I'll give them a W on that.
Week 3 on the road versus the Niners.
L.
Week 4 at home against your Seattle Seahawks.
Another big L.
Week 5 on the road against the Dolphins.
I'm telling you, they started off their schedule started off tough, and that's another L to the Dolphins. Especially if I'm predicting that Saquon's he's going to be sitting out for the majority of the season or the first 8 games. They're going to start off real slow. So I got them losing to the Dolphins there too.
Week 6 on the road against Buffalo.
Tough loss again.
Week 7 at home versus Washington.
I give them a W on this one.
Week 8 versus the New York Jets.
This one I predict Saquon's gonna come back. Is that the Jet Stadium or is this at Giant Stadium?
I mean, they play
I'm
in New
tripping.
York.
They play in
They play in
MetLife.
MetLife. I'm tripping. Saquon comes back this week. I'm still taking the Jets. It's
Week
gonna be a normal
9.
week for him.
Week 9 on the road versus the Las Vegas Raiders.
And this is where they start winning. They pick up a W here.
Week 10 on the road against Dallas.
This is another loss to the Cowboys.
Week 11 on the road against Washington.
I will give them a W. I'll give them the season sweep on the Commanders.
Week 12 at home versus the New England Patriots.
I'll give them a W against the Patriots. I feel like the Patriots still have some holes.
Week 13 bye. Week 14 at home versus the Green Bay Packers.
Against the Packers?
Green Bay.
I mean, I want to see what he picks, man.
Yeah,
I'm curious.
Might ruffle some feathers with this one, but
What is it? What is this? Week 14?
we are in week 14, Monday Night Football, Giants versus Packers, and this game is in New York.
Oh, it's in New York.
New York.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Personally, I'm gonna root for my team in this one. I'm curious what team he's gonna pick, but like, what's the rest of the schedule? Just out of curiosity.
Week 15, on the road versus New Orleans. Week 16, on the road versus Philly. Week 17 on the at home versus the Rams, and then week 18 they close out the season playing the Philadelphia Eagles.
What the hell is their strength of schedule? God damn.
Their strength of schedule is one of the hardest ones in the league. They're ranked.
We're back on the Packers, right?
Yeah, the Packers.
Monday night. Monday
night.
Week 14 versus the Green Bay Packers at home.
Like I said, I'm basing my predictions off Saquon coming back during the second half of the season. I think they get the W on the Packers.
Week 15 on the road versus New Orleans Saints.
Saints one's a tough one. I'm gonna give the Saints the W on this one.
Where are we at now? We are week 16 on the road versus the Eagles.
That's another loss to the Eagles.
Week 17 at home versus the Rams.
That would be a W against the Rams.
And then to close out the season, week 18, they have the Philadelphia Eagles once again at home.
Like I said, I feel like the Eagles probably secure the division. They're going to bench their starter, so I'll give the Giants the W. They have one of the toughest strength of schedules, especially starting off the first 7 weeks. They play some tough teams.
Yeah. The New York Giants, they have the 28th hardest schedule in the easiest schedule in the league, which is pretty much one of the hardest schedules in the league when you do the reverse order. But everybody in the division pretty much has a hard schedule. I mean, but they have it the hardest for sure. When I did my rankings, where do we have them finishing at though? Before we move on to what I could guide it on the side.
Was it? Give me a second. Let me count it up.
Because I think
you have starting off the season.
It was 1-6. I gave him the Cardinals W, right?
Yeah, you gave him week 2. You gave him a week 2 win versus the Cardinals.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 wins.
So you have the Giants going back. You have them winning eight games, so pretty much finishing the season with an 8-9 record. Okay, I mean that's a step back in comparison to what they did last year, but what they finished with last year.
Either 9-7.
The thing is, though, it's so hard. Yeah, they probably had.
It's tough to predict this year because you don't know if Saquon's going to be coming back during the beginning of the season or not. And if he does come back, it could be a different outcome. But second half of the season, I feel like they got a much easier schedule than they do the first half.
Yeah, but damn, yeah, I think I was a little bit more generous than you. I think I said at worst 10-7, at best 11-6. I think a lot of these teams can.
That's very generous.
10-7, 10-7, and it's tough. It is tough. 10-7. I mean, it's tough.
Yeah, I mean,
you got some heavyweights in that division with the Cowboys and the Eagles. There's some heavyweights. So 10-7. I mean, it's possible if Saquon's ready by week 1, because I have him at 8 wins without Saquon for half the season. So who knows? Kind of like their defense though. The defense, I feel like their defense got a little better.
That's what makes it so tough. The uncertainty of Saquon Barkley, which pretty much leaves the New York Giants the season in shambles. But we'll go ahead and move off from the New York Giants, and we will move on to the Dallas Cowboys. These guys finished second in their division last year, second round exit to the San Francisco 49ers. Made some key free agent pickups that could potentially help their team. And I'll go ahead and make the game by game predictions for them. So who would like to call out the games?
Week 1 at the Giants.
Win.
Week 2, home game against the Jets.
Win.
Week 3, Arizona Cardinals away game.
Win.
Home game against the Patriots week 4.
That's a win. I got these guys starting off the season pretty hot.
Big game in the Bay Area. Sunday Night Football, man. They come see the Niners. What you got?
L. Give me the Niners in that one.
They got another primetime game week 6, Monday at the Chargers. What are we saying?
I'll give them a win there.
Week 7, they come up home game against the Rams.
That's a W.
Week 8, away game, division rivals, playing the Philadelphia Eagles.
This one's in Philly, so I'll go ahead and give it an L.
Home game against the Giants coming up on week 9.
I'll go ahead and give him an L on this one.
Away game, week 10 against the Panthers.
A W there.
Home game against the Commanders. I think this one's
Thursday
Night Football.
Thursday Night Football in Washington.
Cowboys.
Actually, no, at home in Dallas.
It's at Dallas.
I'll go ahead and give them a win there.
Another Thursday night game right after Thanksgiving for them. Week 11, I think. They face my Seahawks.
W for the Dallas Cowboys.
And then I think they have their bye. Then they play the Eagles at home for week 11 or week 12.
They have their bye after the Chargers, but after the Seattle game, after the Chargers. But for the for the Eagles game, this one's at home, so I split it. I gave Philly the first one. I'll go ahead and give Dallas the second one. So give me a win here.
Another big game upcoming. Cowboys against the Bills at the Bill Stadium.
Yeah, this is Buffalo in December on the road. Dallas is not going to be able to win this one. Go ahead and give me Bills.
Another tough game in that same division. The next week they play the Dolphins at the Dolphin Stadium.
Nah, L. Miami wins that one.
New Year's Eve on a Saturday, primetime game at 5:15 at home against the Detroit Lions.
That's a W there.
At the end of the season off, they go to Washington for the last game of the season. Who you got for that?
W for the Dallas Cowboys. So that pretty much wraps up my predictions at 12-5 at 12-5 or 11-6. 11-6 at worst, 12-5 at best. Don't sit here and look at me like I'm overreacting.
I mean, I don't know if I'd say 12-5, 11-6. I just can't see them finishing the same record as the Eagles. I just can't.
I give him 10-7 to be honest.
There's literally no way. It's not even about trusting Dak, man. These guys got a lot of their schedule is not even like that hard. Out of all the teams,
go ahead.
Out of all the teams in their division, they have the easiest schedule. They have the 20th easiest schedule.
I don't know. It is like trusting the Cowboys to get you 12 wins is like I might have to take the under on that.
You still have to trust Dak, bro.
Might have to take the under.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with trusting Dak.
Well, you cannot trust Dak. I'm sorry. The guy missed 6 games last year, and he still ended up with the league lead in interceptions. I don't know how that's possible.
Yeah, but
it's crazy.
That doesn't change anything. That doesn't change much for their offense and their elite defense already.
It kind of does.
I mean, you heard him come out and say that he's gonna throw less than 10 interceptions this upcoming season.
Or
that's the goal. That's the goal.
Say that.
That's the
But
goal. But this is Cowboy Nation we're talking about. They always seem to fail the goal.
either or either the Philadelphia Eagles or the Dallas Cowboys, one of them will finish with 12 wins, and then the other will finish with 11 wins. But regardless, 12-5 at best for the Dallas Cowboys, 11-6 at worst. There's absolutely no way these guys, go any lower than that.
They got
for
some
this
fun
upcoming
games. They
season,
got some
but
fun games on their schedule though.
those two games are those those 3 games in December, man, where they got Philly at home, Buffalo on the road, and Miami on the road. Those are some tough ones.
Yeah, those are tough ones, especially the back-to-back against the Bills and the Dolphins.
It's gonna be real tough for those guys. But why? That never mind. It's a huge gap because they play on Thursday, which is
That was
Thanksgiving.
the December 10th
Not
day,
Thanksgiving.
right?
Yeah, November 30th, all the way until December 10th. Some looks a little bit off about that, but we'll go ahead and check that schedule later.
That's what I thought they had to buy after that week. It was a big gap between that.
Yeah, but aside from all that, my Cowboys agenda will be brought up in a few. We'll go ahead and close out our NFC East predictions with the 2023 schedule for the Washington Commanders, and this will be done by a group decision. We'll go through these ones very quickly. Week 1 at home versus the Arizona Cardinals. I personally got them winning this one.
It's a win.
Straight W. I don't respect Arizona.
Week 2 at Denver.
Denver wins.
I also have Denver. I have Denver winning as well.
I'm gonna give the Commanders a W.
Okay. Week 3 at Buffalo. At home versus Buffalo.
They still lose.
L.
That's a loss for me. Week 4 at Philly.
Another
That's
L.
also
Week 5 at home versus Chicago. I have them losing this one.
I have them winning this one.
I think Chicago comes out with the W.
Week 6 at Atlanta. I gave them a W here.
This is a win.
This is a win.
Oh, at Atlanta, I gave them a win here.
This is a win.
It's a win. I think you did say W before.
Yeah, it's a win.
Yeah. I was looking at the next one I got because the next one they're playing on the road against the Giants. I gave them a loss here.
This is also this is a loss.
Lost. I said Giants are going to sweep them this season. So
Week 8 at home versus Philly. I gave them a loss here.
Loss.
Another loss.
Actually, is this at home?
Even if it's at home.
This one's at home versus Philly. Week 8 of the NFL
Don't
season.
kill me, but I think they take one game from the Philadelphia Eagles, man. I mean, they did it last year. I think they can do it again. I'm gonna give. Maybe Sam Howell has something in the bank. Maybe Sam Howell got some ready for it. I got them winning this game.
All it takes is one, man. But I got them losing here. Week 9 at the New England Patriots.
I got them getting.
I ain't gonna lie, this one's kind of interesting though.
I think
I got them losing.
I got this. I think I'm gonna go with a loss on this one.
Yeah, there's no way these guys go into New England and beat the Patriots. I just can't see it. Maybe if it was a home game, I'd give them a chance.
Can we check the New England Patriots home record last year? I don't think it was that great.
It wasn't.
I feel like y'all just we talk about New England. Y'all reminisce to the past and their home record with Brady and everything.
We're talking about the Washington Commanders here. It's not like we're talking about anything crazy.
True.
But I'll make it. We're gonna make it interesting here. Week 10 versus the Seattle Seahawks on the road. I got the Washington Commanders winning this one.
All right, this is a loss.
Seattle's coming out.
There's no way they walk into Lumen Field and they win, bro.
Nah, jokes aside, I got L for the Washington Commanders here. But week 11 at home versus the Giants. This one I got win. I say they bounce back here.
I had them as a season sweep for the Giants, so Giants getting this W.
This is a Giants win as well. This is gonna be a loss for the Commanders.
Week 12 Thursday night game at Dallas. This is what I have them losing here.
This is a loss.
It's a loss.
Week 13 versus the Dolphins. I have them losing here.
This is a loss.
Another loss at the Dolphin Stadium.
This one's at home.
It's still a loss.
Doesn't necessarily change much. Week 14 bye. Week 15 at the Los Angeles Rams. I'll give them a win here.
I'm gonna go with a loss.
I'm giving them the W.
I think this is a mid-off. I can't lie. I'm gonna give this to the Rams. I'm not gonna lie to you. I think it's a loss.
I went ahead and gave it to the Commanders. Two teams that are probably going to be battling for a top pick in the NFL draft this late into the season. But Week 16 on the road versus the New York Jets.
This is a loss.
It's another loss.
Loss here. Week 17 versus the Niners at home. Probably another loss.
Come on, man.
And then they close out the season at home again versus the Dallas Cowboys. I had them losing here, so
I don't think Dallas Cowboys are going to be wrapping up the division at all. I think they're probably going to have their starters out there.
So I think regardless, they'll probably still be out there. I got them losing that game. So for me, my own personal rankings, I got these guys going at worst 4-13, at best 5-12. I could be potentially wrong because these guys are one of those teams. Washington Commanders are one of those teams. I feel like 8-9.
4 wins is like I don't know. I feel like
4 wins is too crazy.
I think they get 6 or 7 next year, but
7 is like a possibility.
But they're a team that fights with grit, though. They every last year.
Like, we don't know about Sam Howell yet, like 100%. So
yeah, last year the stretch of Heineke towards the end of the season, or like the last 7-8 games, they were fighting every single game. It was going down to the wire for them. So I mean, check out Sam Howell. I like their run game. They got a nice receiver named Scary Terry. He's a hooper, and their defense, man, they get what's his face back, right? What's his name?
Chase Young.
Chase Young.
Contract here.
You add him to that. That defense is already phenomenal. So they got some place to build, but it's the quarterback position that we have to check out.
It's going to be interesting to see. But aside from what my predictions was, what I said, 4 or 5 wins. I probably, realistically speaking, I probably give them 6, 7 at most, 8 if they're really, really lucky with Sam Howell. But I just can't personally see it, especially with Eric Bieniemy being there for his first year and having to deal with a different quarterback other than Patrick Mahomes. It's not Kansas City anymore, so it's going to be really tough. But overall, that pretty much wraps up.
One thing about Bieniemy, though, man, he knows how to work with running backs. So Brian Robinson and Gibson, they might have a good year.
Shit, man, I hope so for Brian Robinson's sake, because I think Antonio Gibson should be on his way out anytime soon. It's not. they've been trying to get that guy out of there for a while, but I guess we're just gonna have to wait and see. But for overall, those are our predictions for the NFC East. And aside from that, now we'll go ahead and move on to the keys for all of these teams in the NFC East, and we'll go ahead and start off with the Dallas Cowboys. So what do the Cowboys need to do for this upcoming season in order for them to be successful?
Dak Prescott has to elevate the offense. That's the biggest key. The defense is already phenomenal. They picked up Stephon Gilmore. They have the wide receiver. They have the weapons. Tony Pollard is going to be back. They have the offensive line. Dak Prescott has to elevate his game. That's the biggest key, and I think everybody has to focus on him. I mean, leading the NFL in interceptions when you're missing games is just absurd. He's the microscope of everything that this team does. Come playoff time, when they lose, they're going to be looking at Dak Prescott. This defense is already there. The pieces around him are already there. It's on him to perform. So the biggest key is Dak Prescott. I don't think it's anyone else.
They go as far as Dak takes him. Simple as that. If you look at recent playoff games, the way Cowboys be losing, their defense is there. CD's showing up, the receivers are showing up, and you see the quarterback. He's not up to par. And you pay a guy $40 million a year, he got to perform. So for me, Dak, they go as far as Dak goes. If Dak performs well, Cowboys do great. But if he doesn't, that defense can carry them so far. The run game can carry them so far. But at the end of the day, if Dak has to make that play and he doesn't make that play, then they don't win nothing. So as far as Dak goes, if he can play phenomenal, they have a chance. But that's it for me.
I'm not too concerned with Dak Prescott. I think with his play, I
don't understand why you like you
because I look at it. I understand he had 15 interceptions last year, and those interceptions will probably go down. And majority of those interceptions weren't necessarily his fault. We have highlighted that during the season, and so I think the Dallas Cowboys, their defense is still going to be the same, even though they although they added Stephon Gilmore, so now they have a cornerback duo. For Dak Prescott, it's not even about him, producing. I think it's about him needing to stay healthy. I think that's the main issue. Number one, I think if at any point in the season, if this guy gets injured, he gets banged up, and they have to go resort to Cooper Rush, that offense is going to be in complete shambles. Although they were able to, keep their heads above water last year, I don't think
5-1 with Cooper Rush last year.
Yeah, but if you can look at Cooper Rush's numbers, I think he might have had about 900 and something yards and about 5 touchdowns during that span. That's game manager numbers, bro. He's not really doing much to elevate the offense. We all know that Dax is the guy that's going to be airing the ball out. And when he came back from weeks, I think for about like there's about an 4-week stretch, 4 or 5 week stretch where I think he had about 900 yards, 8 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. And so I think number one, I think the major key for the Dallas Cowboys would be just to keep Dak Prescott as healthy as possible, try to protect him as much as possible, because as long as he's under center, I think their offense will be just fine. And Tony Pollard not being the running back one is also another key for the Dallas Cowboys. It's also just to kind of give him all those touches. Let's see how he operates when he was a true number one running back last year, but he also was playing alongside Ezekiel Elliott. So kind of wasn't necessarily like a split in touches, but obviously Pollard had more touches, but now he's taking all of those touches. I mean, now we're going to be able to see how many touches he's going to be able to manage as a running back and as a receiver coming out of that backfield. And so those would be my 2 keys. My third one that I put down, Mike McCarthy, trusting him as an offensive coordinator this year. He'll be calling the plays. I think it'll be smooth sailing. I think they mentioned that they're going to be using Dak Prescott's language, so it won't be much different in comparison to recent years. So those are my keys for the Dallas Cowboys. But overall, I'm not too concerned about Dak Prescott's play. Maybe in the postseason.
I think that's great.
I think in the regular season they'll be just fine.
I think Dak Prescott is the one that you should be focused on, even during the regular season. Postseason, it's a given. Even the regular season, he's the guy that needs to be highlighted. I mean, the defense, for them to even still be 5-1 when Cooper Rush is there, just speaks volumes about how good they were. So really on Dak Prescott and elevating his game, because there was situations that they could have won games if Dak Prescott wasn't throwing turnovers. Partially some of them weren't his fault, but even then, it's still on him to elevate this offense. And there's no excuse for him to have 15 interceptions. That's just absurd. So he's a guy that everybody's gonna be looking at. I mean, Mike McCarthy, he's gonna be calling the plays now, but he's not gonna be the focus. It's not gonna be anybody on the defense 100%. Tony Pollard, yes, he's gonna be coming into a role where he's the workhorse running back, but Dak Prescott's the one that's under the microscope. He's the one that everybody's gonna be looking at. So I mean, I just don't see anyone else being the key except him.
Fair enough. We'll go ahead and move on to the Philadelphia Eagles. What do they need to do in order for them to be successful for this upcoming season?
To be honest, I just think the Eagles just have to try to keep up that level of play that they had last season. Yes, they did lose C.J. Gardner-Johnson. They lost one of their offensive linemen. Even then, I still feel like they did get key additions with Nolan Smith and Jalen Carter in the draft, and they picked up Trey Edmonds. And then of course they have DeAndre Swift and Rashad Penny. So they got pieces on this team. They're nothing short of a complete roster. When we talk from the defense to the offense to quarterback, it's just Jalen Hurts continuing that level of play that they had. I don't think there's much keys other than just attempting to replicate what they did last season. I had the formula is there for them. I have complete trust in Nick Sirianni as a head coach. I think he did a fantastic job with this team last year, and I expect nothing less this year. Just do exactly what they did last year. That's the key for them. Just consistency coming into this season.
I agree with you. I feel like it's just at this point, it's consistency. They have a phenomenal offense and a phenomenal defense. Although they did lose one of the best safeties in the league in C.J. Gardner-Johnson, but hey, I think they can just fit somebody in right there with the other pieces they got on the defensive side of the ball, especially them getting Nolan Smith, Jalen Carter, Trayvon Edmonds, and offensively, it's the same thing they're going to do last year. They're going to pound the ball, run the ball. You got 2-3 great options on the receiving end with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, and then you add Swift too to the passing game. And they got a lot of options on the offensive side of the ball. So for me, I'm pretty high on the Eagles this year. I feel like last year we talked about we got to see what Jalen Hurts can do, see if he gets tested, and we got to see if he's this type of quarterback. He played up to par. I feel like this year he got the MVP in his hands if he can stay healthy. Last year it was right there for him. I feel like this year if he's healthy throughout the whole season, he can win MVP. So for me, it's not much that changes from last year. And just if they got to keep that same type of hunger basically. If they want to get back to the Super Bowl, they barely lost. They got to keep that same type of hunger. So just them having that consistency, having that same type of hunger that they had last year, they go back right to the top. So
for me, my key for the Philadelphia Eagles was for them to collect as many wins as possible in the first half of the season, from weeks 1 through 8. Pretty much weeks 1 through 9, leading up into their week 10 bye. The only 3 tough matchups I see are on the road in week 6 versus the Jets, at home versus the Miami Dolphins, and then week 9 at home versus the Dallas Cowboys. And so I think if these guys are able to take care of business in the first half of the season and get the wins that they're supposed to, like week one at New England, week 2 at home versus Minnesota, week 3 Tampa, week 4 Washington, 5 LA Rams, week 8 Washington. I think they can kind of come out of that bye week with a lot more confidence if they take a couple of wins off these big teams. Like let's say they split, they win against the Jets and the Cowboys and lose to the Dolphins, or but a different type of order, different situation. I think that'll be key for the Philadelphia Eagles, because once they come out of that week 10 bye, it's all hell breaks loose for them. They got week 11, week 12, week 13, Chiefs, Bills, Niners, and then week 14 to the Dallas Cowboys. And so I think their strength of schedule in that second half of the season concerns me a lot, because I'm not too sure if they're going to be able to, if they're going to, put their foot on the gas and kind of do what they did last year and kind of just reel off a whole bunch of wins. But their strength of schedule concerns me. I'm not too sure if it concerns you guys.
I mean, like, it would concern me if they're one of those teams that could go 9-8 or something. But like, when you're the top dog in the NFC, when you're the Philadelphia Eagles, like any other team, any other team should be scared of facing them instead of the other way around. I think with the roster that they have, they can go toe to toe with about any of these teams that you mentioned. You know, and there could be a situation where they have a winning record basically against almost all these teams, barring the Chiefs. It's a possibility that they're able to beat the Jets, Dolphins, and Bills, and maybe just lose to the Chiefs just because of how good of a roster that they have and how complete it is. So, I mean, yes, there is some you know, they're going to be facing some tough dogs, but you know, they're the tough dog as well in this. So
they're one of the best teams in the league, so I wouldn't worry about them facing other top teams. I feel like they can go toe to toe with any team in the NFL. So the strength of schedule to a top team like them, it don't matter to me.
I think you guys are really, really underestimating their strength of schedule, man. I think none of these top dogs they're facing are any slouches, bro. And I think I'm not sitting here saying the Eagles are a slouch either. They're not one of the top teams, but this is football, man. It's going to be tough. You got to go from Kansas City to Buffalo to San Francisco and spin it back against Dallas. That's a crazy 4-week stretch. I'd understand if it was spread out over a course of 17 weeks, but it's not. It's literally 4 weeks in a row coming off their bye week, which they'll be the most refreshed. They got to play those 4 teams, and in 3 out of the 4 weeks before that, they got to go Jets, Dolphins, Washington Commanders, and then they got to play the Dallas Cowboys. So I think as long as the Philadelphia Eagles take care of business in the first half of the season, I think the second half of the season will be smooth sailing. They might be able to drop a few games and still be all right in order to hold on to home field advantage in the NFC. But, man, it's going to be interesting to see how everything else pans out for them. But aside from the Philadelphia Eagles, it's time we move on to the New York Giants. And what do they need to do in order for them to be successful for this upcoming season?
resolve this Saquon Barkley situation 100%. We're going to get to it later, but just looking at this team, I don't see a situation where if Saquon Barkley is not able to be on the field for this Giants roster, I don't see a situation where they're able to be productive offensively. I think Daniel Jones is productive as a runner, but when you don't have a running back to hand the ball off to, and there's not a ton of big name wide receivers. I do believe Isaiah Hodgins is pretty good wideout, but it's not like a star level wideout. I think it's going to be an issue where, like offensively, what is it going to look like in the first half of last season? You know, Saquon Barkley was huge for this team. You know, second half he kind of slowed down, but is Daniel Jones going to be able to get away as being essentially a game manager that's able to pick up yardage with his feet and protect the ball? I just don't see that being a situation that can be replicated coming into this season. If Saquon isn't out there on the field for this New York Giants, I don't see it. So resolving his Saquon Barkley situation is 100%, like to me the biggest key. And then you know, a side point to that, since we're going to be talking about Saquon Barkley's situation in a bit, I would say another key for them is Daniel Jones as a passer. I do feel like last year Daniel Jones did what he needed to do with that roster that's out there, but you know, coming into the season, is that something that's going to be replicated? Is that possible to just walk around with only 20-something touchdowns that he passed, or maybe even less than that? You're muted.
15?
Yeah, even less than that. You see, I don't know if that's a possibility to walk around like getting wins, especially with the schedule that they have, picking up wins and not being as much of a high volume passer and a touchdown without, you know, necessarily star wide receiver. So, you know, it's Daniel Jones as a passer. Can he progress? Can he be productive as a passer? Can he be of a high volume passer? It wouldn't need to be. If Saquon isn't out there, can he essentially carry the offense? So that's my other key.
Yeah, obviously Saquon's situation for them is the number one thing that they got to fix. But just to tap into I feel like the coaching staff got to, especially the offensive coaching staff, they got to open up the passing game for Daniel Jones. Going into the offseason, they traded for Darren Waller. I mean, phenomenal tight end once he's on the field if he can stay healthy. But last year, 15 touchdowns. Ran phenomenal. I think he had 8 running touchdowns last year, 7,
Yeah, like 760 yards, something like that.
800 yards running. Phenomenal, but that's a lot due to having Saquon in the backfield. Saquon opens up the game so much for them. So for him to start the season off without Saquon there, what's going to happen? If the run game is not going, you're going to be forced to throw the ball. So I do want to see them, open up the game a little bit for him, and I do want to see if Waller can stay healthy because I feel like that's a big target for him, and Daniel Jones can find a solution with that. But the receiving options, Sterling Shepard can never stay healthy. I don't want to speak about Kenny Galladay. I don't know if they cut him this offseason. Isaiah Hodgins.
I don't think he's on the team anymore.
Yeah, Isaiah Hodgins, he looked good last year in the playoffs and late towards the season, so that's another option for them. But they gotta open up the passing game for Daniel Jones. As a quarterback getting paid $44 million a year, you can't come into the season and just say, hey, I'm gonna throw another 15 passing touchdowns. That's enough. You're gonna need to throw at least 30. Catapult your team to a position where they can win, especially without a phenomenal running back like Saquon playing. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think obviously the most obvious one, the glaring one, is paying Saquon Barkley. But for me, I think in order for the New York Giants to be a successful team this upcoming season, I think they need to do a better job defensively at generating turnovers. Last year, they only had 19 takeaways, 6 interceptions, and 13 fumbles, and so their turnover ratio was only +3. Now, obviously it's not the greatest, but they weren't in the negatives. But it definitely could be a lot better. And if Saquon Barkley is not going to suit up for this team week 1, and pretty much for the first half of the season up until he needs to, their defense is going to have to step up because, as you guys have highlighted already, Daniel Jones isn't the passer that these guys, expect him to be. Like this, he can't really pass the ball like that. We haven't seen it yet, and even when he's tried, hasn't been good. And so, this team only goes as far as Saquon takes them, and without Saquon for those first however many games he misses and however many games he sits, it's going to have to be a real defensive battle for the New York Giants, and those guys have to generate a lot of turnovers on that side of the ball. I think they also need to have a little bit more offensive line success. I think their offensive line was just decent last year, but I think they could have done a better job at protecting Daniel Jones, also opening up a lot more holes in the running game.
It was like a bottom 5 offensive line. It was pretty
bottom
bad.
5 offensive line. So it's like,
what's his name? Andrew Thomas. Outside of him, it was pretty bad.
Evan Neal needs to be better. I think that's one of their guys that they drafted. So they got to do a better job at, protecting their quarterback and also creating a lot more rushing goals for, whoever is going to be.
The issue, they said it's because they moved him from right tackle. They moved him to right tackle, even though naturally he played left in his last season. So they're moving him back to right tackle. So, hopefully maybe that helps ease. But it's pretty bad. I mean, the offensive line, it's always been, I don't know what it is about this Giants team. I feel like the last 4 or 5 years we've said the same thing about their offensive line. It's been an issue for a while. And hopefully it's better this year, but I don't have much hope about that.
It's tough to build an offensive line, man. Teams can draft offensive linemen for 4 or 5 years in a row, and maybe only 1 out of the 5 will pan out to be an elite talent. So, but for me, that's probably my number 1 for the New York Giants. They got to be able to generate a lot more turnovers in order for them to kind of keep them afloat in games and give Daniel Jones a chance offensively. But last team in the NFC East, we'll go ahead and move on to the Washington Commanders. What do they need to do in order for them to be successful for the upcoming season?
Can Sam Howell step up to the plate? That's the biggest question mark for me coming into this season because, when you've looked at the Commanders, they've been a bevy of quarterbacks that they've had, and it just has not worked out. They've had Tyler Heineke, they got Carson Wentz, and they've had a bunch of quarterbacks since Kirk Cousins, and it just seems like any single quarterback that they put, Alex Smith, it hasn't panned out for them. And a guy like Terry McLaurin, he deserves a quarterback that's able to get him the ball. They have Jahan Dotson, they have Brian Robinson, they have pieces on that offensive end. They're a fairly young team that I feel like can be utilized if they have a quarterback that can get them the ball. And Sam Howell, he is an unknown, but there is some talent there, and there's potential for him to be good as a quarterback. And I feel like that's the biggest question mark because, they have the defensive pieces. They can be productive on that end, but offensively, they're just not able to find that consistency. And that's exactly what they need from a quarterback to step in and get the guys their ball. Defensively, that they're going to be solid with the pieces that they have. But offensively, can Sam Howell come in and just generate offense for this team? That's exactly what they're looking for. So I think he's the biggest key for me. Can Sam Howell step up to the plate?
Their issue always been quarterback these last couple of years. So for them, another different quarterback coming into the system, if he can come in and perform, if Sam Howell does step up to the plate, they do have a nice roster around him defensively and offensively. And I feel like, that's all. That's the only problem. And I feel like Brian Robinson might have a breakout year this year. Can he have a second-year breakout with Eric Bieniemy as one of the best running back coaches? Taught up Jamal Charles, Sean McCoy, all these type of Kareem Hunt, Pacheco, all the Chiefs running back. He's been mentoring them. So for them, quarterback situation, if their run game can step up, and them having Chase Young back on the defensive side of the ball, I feel like that's going to bring a lot more pressure. And they do have a phenomenal D line, so just adding him back, it's going to make it even more scary.
Yeah, to piggyback off what you guys said, I'm not going to go ahead and use that as my takeaway or my key for them. But for the last 5 seasons for the Washington Commanders offense, 18 points per game, 30th in the NFL, 310 total passing yards, total yards, 31st in the NFL, 198 passing yards per game, 31st in the NFL, 96 touchdowns, 29th in the NFL, and 235 sacks allowed, 30th in the NFL. So 100% these guys do need to, be hitting on all cylinders from week one with Eric Bieniemy as their offensive coordinator, Sam Howell under center, to be better than what they were these last 5 years. But for me, my key would be to keep Chase Young as healthy as possible, to keep him healthy for this team. I think, him going into his 4th year with no 5th-year option, the Washington Commanders are pretty much banking on him just having a pretty solid year to the point where they can just kind of re-sign him on this very team-friendly deal. But they also do run the risk of this guy just kind of blowing up and having a breakout season and getting a huge payday in free agency next year. And so I think if they're able to keep Chase Young on the field, and Chase Young, who hasn't really played much in these past couple of years, I think it's going to help their defense a lot. Although their offense, has all the skilled players in the world, where you have Scary Terry, you have Jahan Dotson. I think Logan Thomas is still their tight end. Brian Robinson, Antonio Gibson in the backfield. They got some pieces. I'm not going to go ahead and say they're one of the best skilled groups in the NFL, probably bottom 15, but they got some pieces to work with. They got an OC that they brought in, so they can make some work. But I think defensively, Chase Young needs to be leading the way for this team. And in order for them to do that, he has to be out there on the field for them. So that would be my number one key for the Washington Commanders in order for them to be successful. Because we know these guys are always going to be one of those few teams that kind of just keep their head above waters and kind of stick around up until the very last week of the season, trying to fight their way into the playoffs with about 7, 8, 9 wins at most. And so if they're able to do that, who knows? They might have a shot with how wide open the NFC is. So, but that pretty much wraps up our top keys, our keys for every team in the NFC East. But we'll go ahead and move on to our next topic, which is the Dallas Cowboys. As we all know, the Dallas Cowboys made a couple moves this most recent offseason, acquiring guys like Stephon Gilmore and Brandon Cooks to help out their defense and their offense in the receiving room. Also re-signed a lot of their key guys. And so I guess my question to you guys is, can the Dallas Cowboys win the NFC?
No. I just feel like when you just look at it from the offensive perspective, I'm just way more confident in what the Eagles can put out offensively. When you look at their wide receiver core, their wide receiver options, when you go Devontae Smith, you have Quez Watkins, you have A.J. Brown, and then you have Dallas Goedert. In the backfield, you have Rashad Penny and DeAndre Swift, and then you have Jalen Hurts, and you have an absolute elite unit of offensive line. I'm way more confident in that team and what they can produce, and I feel like Jalen Hurts as just a player overall is a lot better than Dak Prescott. And I'm not particularly confident in Dak Prescott's ability to elevate this offense. I feel like, yes, he can have his moments, like exactly a couple of seasons ago where he started off the season red hot, but then he cooled off as the season went on. I'm just not confident in his ability to elevate this offense. I just feel like the Eagles right now, when we look at the NFC rankings, it's like the Eagles and the Niners stand above everybody else. Like everybody else is in discussion after them. And I just don't see a reason why the Dallas Cowboys can win the NFC this season. So,
yeah, I ain't trusting Dak Prescott. I don't see the Cowboys winning the NFC East at all. For me, just plain and simple, man. The guy doesn't perform when it comes to it, I feel like, against the Eagles, a much better team offensively, defensively, much better consistent team, and a much better quarterback to me on that opposite side of the field. I just don't see the Cowboys being a better team than them. So for me, it's not hey, Cowboys are not the best in the division. I just had the Eagles being better in the division. That's it.
I think we're really underplaying and underestimating what the Dallas Cowboys got coming into this season. And I'm not going to sit here. I mean, although it does sound like I'm like the biggest Dallas Cowboys fan, as we all know, I'm not. I think we gotta at least be a little more optimistic about them coming into this upcoming season. I think them, for number one, acquiring Stephon Gilmore. Now, not only does that help out their defense a lot, they have created one of the best duos, cornerback duos in the NFL. So that's number one. Number two, they got Brandon Cooks. And a lot of people like to downplay this one. Like Brandon Cooks is some sort of bum. This guy has 6 seasons over 1,000 yards. Doesn't sound like much, but it's consistency at its finest. And that's what the Dallas Cowboys have needed alongside their number one guy, CeeDee Lamb. Their defense, I could talk about it. Their defense all episode. These guys have one of the best defenses in the league. Either it's top 1, top 2, top 3 finishes in these last 1 or 2 years, I would say. And so I have no questions about that. Dan Quinn is coming back for this upcoming season as well. So I don't think their defense will skip a beat. Their offense, though, like I said earlier, their offense only goes as far as Dak Prescott goes. And I think it's not about him, going out there and producing numbers at a high level and producing at a high level. I think it goes out there. It's really just about him staying healthy for this Dallas Cowboys team. Because when he's out there, they have one of the best offenses in the league, and the stats prove it. In 2019 and 2021, when Dak Prescott was healthy, those guys had one of the best offenses in the league. 2020, he gets hurt. Obviously, they're not going to do well. In 2022, he missed 5 games of the season, and pretty much Cooper Rush wasn't able to kind of lead them to have a top offense in the NFC and in the NFL. And so I think a lot of us, I think we're pretty much underestimating this Dallas Cowboys team, and they pretty much kind of fixed up what they needed to fix up. They're one of the few teams that went out and got a wide receiver 2 to complement their wide receiver 1. Dak Prescott, hopefully, stays healthy. They moved on from Ezekiel Elliott. They have Tony Pollard in their backfield. They signed him onto that franchise tag. And so I wouldn't be surprised if the Dallas Cowboys do win the NFC. And I think if I had to make a bold and hot take, I would honestly say that I can see the Dallas Cowboys winning the NFC, beating out those 2 other teams, whether it's the Niners or the Philadelphia Eagles, a division rival, in order for them to get to the Super Bowl. I think this might be the year for the Dallas Cowboys that they kind of just get over the hump. But you guys are kind of just taking everything that's happened over the last 10, 15 years in Dallas Cowboys history and kind of just rolling it all up into one and kind of just throwing it all on the table right now and just pretty much doubting them to win the NFC.
No, I mean, like, it's just like the faith in the quarterback position and the fact that I believe in the completeness of the Eagles roster than I do more than the Cowboys. I mean, when you look at the Eagles roster, where is there the holes in that team? Like, is there a single hole when you look at that Eagles team? We've talked about it dating back to last season. Jalen Hurts is in the best situation because this team front to back is just absolutely amazing and on every single level. So I'm just like, I look at it. They did it last season. They're the best team in the NFC. I don't see a reason why a team can catch up to them in the NFC outside of the Niners. I just don't believe the Cowboys have that level of quarterback play. I mean, Jalen Hurts provided MVP level quarterback play. Is Dak Prescott going to offer that to the Dallas Cowboys? Absolutely, hell no, he's not going to do that. So I'm way more confident in what Jalen Hurts is going to put out for that offense than I do with Dak Prescott. And it's not even just a bias. I just don't believe Dak Prescott is going to produce at a level to give the Cowboys that edge in the NFC.
But I mean, you mentioned quarterback though. Don't the Niners have a quarterback issue?
I mean, the Niners have one of the best head coaches in the entire NFL, and Kyle Shanahan, and that defense is just absolutely ridiculous. And their rushing game, and they have wide receiver threats, and it's a Kyle Shanahan system. You can plug any player into that system, and they're going to produce. And that's why I'm so confident in that team compared to like the Cowboys. I feel like the consistency of the Niners when it comes to the defense, and then of course that rushing attack and the Kyle Shanahan system, I feel way more confident about them than I do the Cowboys.
I mean, I'm looking at Dak Prescott's numbers aside from last year where he missed 5 games. In 2021, he finished off the season 4,400 yards, 37 passing touchdowns, and 10 interceptions with a quarterback rating of 104. I don't think it's too bad for a guy that, I guess, the choke artist, or I guess whatever you guys like to describe him as. But 2020, he got injured. 2019, 4,900 yards, 30 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. I'm telling you, it's not as bad as people make it out to be when it comes to Dak Prescott. Maybe I understand in the postseason, the track record isn't the nicest. It hasn't been since, he got that win against Seattle. Pretty much, I'm not too sure if it was his first postseason run, but maybe his second, I want to say. After that, it's been a downhill sledding for him. But, I mean, the Dallas Cowboys. You said that the Philadelphia Eagles don't have any holes. What holes do the Dallas Cowboys have?
Their quarterback. That's the hole. I don't believe, and I don't believe that the Dallas Cowboys defense is as good as the Eagles defense. Quote me on that. I don't believe that defense is as good as them. I believe that what's crazy about the Philadelphia Eagles defense is they literally rushed. I think at a below they blitz at a below average rate, and yet somehow they had the second most sacks in NFL history. I mean, that team is just ridiculous, man. Defensively, and then now they picked up Nolan Smith and Jalen Carter. Like, come on, man. Like, what are we doing here?
I mean, I think we got to take into account. I forgot to mention this earlier. I think I said something about the Dallas Cowboys finishing top 2 or top 3 as a defense. In 2021, they were number 1 in turnover ratio. And in 2022, they were top 2 in turnover ratio. So I think the Dallas Cowboys is pretty. I think they have a pretty good defense. I wouldn't say. I think they can go toe to toe with the Philadelphia Eagles defensively. I'm not going to go and sit here and outright say it's a landslide.
I don't think they're a top 2 defense. I think
Cowboys got a nice defense, and they added Saquon Gilmore this year.
I think the Eagles and the Niners are a better defense than both of them. That's what I believe.
I don't think so. I'll give you Philly 50-50. They can go toe to toe with Philly. I'm not going to go and sit here and give them the Niners though. I think their secondary clears the Niners secondary.
But even then,
it's not even close. It's not even close.
Then the Niners pass rushes somehow put them in the top every single season.
Eagles had 2 All-Pro corners though. Yeah, like what are you talking about?
This is ridiculous.
We're talking about the Niners and Cowboys here though.
Even it was crazy.
Wait. You say they can't go toe to toe with the Niners defense?
Who? I'm talking. Who can't go toe to toe?
He's saying.
I said I'll give him Philly. I think they can go toe to toe defensively with Philly, but for the Niners, I would take the Dallas Cowboys defense as of right now. With the acquisition of Saquon Gilmore.
I think I'll take the Cowboys defense over the
Niners. And I said what my reason for that is their secondary clears the Niners secondary. Although their front seven might clear the Niners front seven might clear the Cowboys front seven.
The Niners are better defense as a whole.
I don't think it's that. You're making it seem like it's like some sort of landslide or something, bro. Like
Cowboys. But obviously, Cowboys still one of the best defenses in the league. Even if they're not top 2, 3 it doesn't take much.
At worst, they're a top 5 defense at worst. I still believe that Eagles and Niners are better defense. So I think the Niners pass rush is just like ridiculous. They have, in my opinion, at this point right now in the NFL season, they have the best defensive player. Currently, as it stands, they have the best defensive player on the team, in the entire league. Let's keep it a stack, man.
Maybe Pittsburgh might argue that.
Pittsburgh, TJ Watt can make an argument, but outside of that, that's about it.
And maybe Dallas might make an argument with Micah Parsons.
No,
maybe Dallas fans might make an argument for Micah Parsons.
We're going to see Micah though. They're switching his position to full-time DN. You know, he's not going to be standing outside.
I mean, to be honest, let's keep it a stack. Like, let's be honest, he was already a edge rusher. Like this guy, they're gonna say this guy was playing coverage, but
this time though, he's gonna be 100%. 100%.
Snaps. He probably had 12 snaps dropping.
Nah. I think more. He ended up with 2 picks last year.
I swear,
Micah's not a bad.
Micah was in coverage last year. I'm not gonna.
Yeah, he was. And he's not a bad coverage linebacker either.
Funny, I guarantee him and TJ Watt probably have the same rate in coverage in terms of just like dropping back. They probably didn't drop back more than 20 snaps in this season. More than 20. I promise you. I'm gonna look it up after this. I promise you didn't drop more than 20.
We need to check that.
We'll go ahead and fact check that.
Micah Parsons drop coverage and snaps.
But I still one of the best defensive players in the league, though. So
ain't no question about that. Man. I'm talking about Nick Bosa, man, the defensive player of the year.
Micah Parsons was in the running for that this past season.
Yeah,
he came a little bit short. So I'm not, it was a close race. It wasn't no unanimous decision. So, obviously, they both have some talent on that side of the ball. But as of right now, with the way their rosters are constructed, although the Niners front seven is amazing, their secondary room is literally bottom tier. I think they have Charvarius Ward as their number 1 corner. And they lost a couple other pieces.
Niners secondary was horrible last year. I can't lie.
Charvarius Ward is pretty underrated though. He's pretty underrated. He's a pretty solid corner.
You compare Charvarius Ward, their number one is Trayvon Diggs, who had a better second year than he did his first year, giving up all those yards.
I'm looking at it right now. Micah Parsons, he had So his rookie season, he had 540 snaps off ball versus 390 on the line of scrimmage. This year in 2022, he had 170, and then 693 on the line of scrimmage. So that's about a 17% amount of in coverage.
Yeah, next year gonna be 800 on the line, 20 in the secondary. So we're gonna see more sacks from him. I feel like he's gonna be moving around that D line.
Man. There's no doubt about
they
that.
finally gonna unleash him. I feel like this is where he's supposed to be. He should never be in coverage whatsoever. Never be in coverage.
Yeah, he spent 90% of his snaps as a linebacker.
It got to be down to like 2%. It can't be 19. It's like an extra 3 or 4 sacks right there.
I think that's an overwork when you put him in coverage. There's no point in doing that, to be honest.
Yeah, you got to utilize his best skill.
I mean, who else is on that line?
DeMarcus Lawrence.
DeMarcus Lawrence, right?
Lawrence, yeah.
Who's on the interior?
They drafted that. They drafted that from Michigan.
Mozzie Smith or something like that.
Yeah, from Michigan.
That's about it.
Let's go ahead and pull up their depth chart right now. Mozzie Smith, Osa. I can't pronounce his last name, but yeah, I mean, it's not many guys that we know. But they said they have Micah Parsons defensively.
I'm not gonna lie. I think I really
Leighton Vander Esch.
The Commanders gonna have a better D line. I actually think the Commanders gonna have a better D line. If you think about it, Montez Sweat and Chase Young's gonna be back, and they have Jonathan Allen. I'm just saying, man. That's the
thing is the Dallas Cowboys they're not gonna be that team that make their money on the D line. That's not where they're gonna make their money. They're gonna make their money in the secondary. It's gonna be a tough time trying to get by Trayvon Diggs. It's gonna be a tough time trying to get by Stephon Gilmore. I mean, they literally pretty much had nobody last year. I can't name their number 2 cornerback. I forgot his name. I think it might have been Jordan Lewis. I'm not too sure if he's on the team anymore. But now they got a cornerback tandem that could be arguably put up against any cornerback duo in the NFL. So that's where they're going to make their money at. And I think the Dallas Cowboys, the one thing they do a good job at is generating turnovers. So I legit have no worries about them generating turnovers. I mean, 2021, number 1, 2022, number 2, and Dan Quinn's sticking around for another year. And so I don't think it's outrageous to say these guys could win the NFC, man. And for me, I think that might just be my bold take of the year. But we'll go ahead and get to that in maybe in a future episode. But aside from the Dallas Cowboys, now we move on to probably our best topic of tonight, and that's Saquon Barkley and his contract situation with the New York Giants. July 17th was the deadline for the New York Giants to come to an agreement with Saquon Barkley on a new contract, aside from that franchise tag that they gave him at the start of NFL free agency. And unfortunately, they weren't able to come to terms on a new deal. And so with Saquon Barkley now questioning whether or not he wants to suit up for the New York Giants in week 1, how much will this hurt the New York Giants going into this upcoming season?
Well, I feel like I'm going to start off by saying, we got to address the elephant in the room. Everybody's posted it the same exact thing about the last time a Pro Bowler running back won the Super Bowl was, I believe, Marshawn Lynch. And before that, I was when last time an All-Pro running back won the Super Bowl was 1980s or 1990s or something like that. So it is the elephant in the room. I get it, running backs do want to get paid, but there is a reason why these Super Bowl teams don't necessarily pay these running backs that much. I mean, Zeke is a classic example of this. You know, he got his big contract, and they literally found a replacement for him in the 4th round in Tony Pollard. And then you have the Le'Veon Bell situation. You have the Todd Gurley situation. And it's just paying running backs it's an issue in 2023. I feel like the running back position, you got to be a versatile pass catcher, and even then, there's a certain amount of money allocated to that position. I feel like I'd rather pay a cornerback, I'd rather play a wide receiver, of course, an offensive lineman, a defensive lineman, basically a lot of other positions than the running back. But talking about Saquon Barkley, we obviously know this guy's extremely talented as a running back. At worst, he's a top 7 running back in this league. He's a big part of what the Giants were doing offensively last season, and if he's out, I'm just confused who's going to be his replacement. Are you going to put Matt Breida there? Seriously? It's 2023. What is the offense? They don't even have wide receivers like that for this team to be able to be productive offensively. Is Daniel Jones going to rush for everything? Is that really a viable solution? It's just not going to work. It's I feel like he's a big part of their offense, but at the same time, from the Giants' perspective, I understand Like, they're not trying to pay a running back that much money. They're like thinking about it. Okay, do we really want to pay a running back like this? But at the same time, it is kind of key to their success this season. If they want to make it, they want to take steps to success this season. They got to pay Saquon Barkley. But I totally understand what the Giants are doing. It's an unfortunate situation for Saquon Barkley, but I do kind of lean towards the Giants' way about not paying Saquon Barkley. It is a statement not paying one of your best players, but at the same time, it is the reality of running backs in the modern day NFL. Like, it's just hard to pay them because you can get a replacement for them in the fourth round. You can find some random guy like Isaiah Pacheco in the seventh round. So I just feel like I understand where the Giants are coming from, but if they don't pay Saquon Barkley, it's going to be a tough situation for them this season. I don't think they're going to be much productive offensively.
You look in the past, you bring up what's his face, Le'Veon Bell. I mean, he got paid big. He was partying all off season during the season, and the Jets paid him big money. He came back looking like a two-piece of ass. And same as what's his face, who got paid last year? Zeke a couple years ago. Got paid, got big, and he looked like a two-piece of ass. Like he forgot how to run the ball, he forgot how to cut, he forgot how to hit. And I understand, the running back market is tough. Paying running back 16, 17 mil. They only have a span of what? 3 to 5 years in the NFL at most. And that's the average. Not even the average is like 2.5, 3 years. And running backs, they take the most toll in the NFL for them. So for them, the rarity of them getting a second contract and getting paid big money like that, it's very rare. So, but at the same time, it's like we know what type of production the Giants are going to bring without Saquon, especially the type of system that they have, type of offense that they have. It works with Saquon perfectly. Daniel Jones doesn't do what he does last year. Daniel Jones doesn't get paid without Saquon being in that backfield last year. So for them, it's going to be taking a step back. And Saquon's one of those backs that you can say, dude, he's not irreplaceable. It's tough to find a replacement for Saquon, regardless of who you get. You got Matt Breida. You got I forgot the other guy they have as a backup. Big old, I think his last name's like Robinson or something. Other than that, they didn't draft a running back this year. So going into the season, 32-year-old Matt Breida, that's your starting running back. And it's kind of disrespectful to Saquon to say that, hey, we don't need you. We're not going to pay you what you're valued at. And we're going to go ahead and finish our season off with Matt Breida. So for him, I feel like, he got to sit out, stay healthy, just work out in the offseason and in season, and come back and get paid next year. Some team's going to pay him. I don't think every team in the NFL is going to be like, oh, we're not going to pay Saquon what he wants. He's going to get that 14 to 15 mil per year. And I think that he performs. So, big loss on the Giants. I understand why they're doing it, but not in their situation, it's not right. The type of system, type of offense that they have, they should pay Saquon.
Exactly what you said was going to lead to my point. It absolutely makes zero sense for the New York Giants to be pulling this stunt on their best player, Saquon Barkley. Like, I understand if their passing attack was one of the best passing attacks in the NFL, and obviously their running back success was pretty good on the ground, but they're more known as a passing team. This team is not known as a passing team at all. They were a top 5 rushing team last year, averaging about 148 yards on the ground. And to put that into perspective, they had a better rushing attack than the Philadelphia Eagles last year. And we all thought those guys were pretty much invincible with their elite offensive line and their elite run game. And so their passing offense, they were a bottom 10 passing offense last year. They only averaged 185 passing yards per game last year. And so obviously their offensive game plan is pretty simple. Let's run the ball as much as possible. Let's play some great defense. And let's get out of here with some wins. So it absolutely makes no sense for the New York Giants to play hardball with their best player and their best asset when he's literally the focal point of their offense. And going into this upcoming season, they have the 5th hardest schedule according to Pro Football Focus, and they're only projected 8.7 wins. And so that's with Saquon Barkley suiting up for game 1, week 1 of the NFL season. If Saquon Barkley doesn't suit it for these guys, 8.7 wins goes down to maybe 6, 5, maybe. And so it's absolutely confusing why the Giants are doing this. And I would understand if it was maybe another running back that they had that probably wasn't, in the top 5 category. Because as of right now, Saquon Barkley is a top 5 running back, however you like to cut the cake and however you want to place him within that top 5. But he's a top 5 running back. And if you have a top 5 running back on your roster, you pay your top 5 running back. It doesn't matter what he's going to do in the next 2 to 3 years from now. If that contract's going to look so bad and you might have to end up cutting him, pretty similar to what the Cowboys did with Zeke, that's something that you're going to have to live with, because without him, you don't have a team. You don't have your offense. And although the Dallas Cowboys were able to survive without Zeke, they ended up drafting Tony Pollard. They ended up having one of the best offenses in the league as well. Their offense is doing pretty well. They ended up letting go of Zeke, and I think they'll be just fine. The New York Giants running back room right now, outside of Saquon Barkley, as you guys mentioned, number one being Matt Breida, number two Eric Gray, and number three Gary Brightwell. Two out of those three guys we don't even know, and Matt Breida, we've never seen him in a running back one role, and if we have, it hasn't been anything great. Because if he were great, he'd be playing somewhere as a running back one right now. But that's just not the case. He's not. He's a decent running back. He's a decent backup in this day in the NFL. And so for the New York Giants, as of right now, to not be paying Saquon Barkley is a stupid mistake that they might regret. And I think Saquon Barkley eventually he'll come back at some point in the season. And he even said it himself. You know, his leverage that he has on the New York Giants is pretty simple. It's just I'm going to say fuck them, and I'm not going to suit up for them at all. I'm going to watch these guys go to war without me, and let's see how they do without me. That's his leverage, and I completely understand that. And so, you know, I guess what I want to lead to next is, you know, 5-10 years from now, are we going to be seeing any talented running backs at that position? You know, are we going to see any talented running backs coming out of college that are going to be leading the way, are going to be top players in the league? Because, you know, obviously we have CMC now, we have Derrick Henry, we have Saquon Barkley, we have Jonathan Taylor. 5 to 10 years from now, are we going to have anybody at that position to represent the running backs?
I think like this kind of leads into a separate point, but I feel like there's going to be obviously I feel like there's going to be a players association meeting at some point within the near future, discussing about the running back pay. Like my solution for this whole running back situation thing, I think that they should front load contracts. I feel like if they should give the most money for the contract in the beginning of its life, like within the first 2 years, if they're on for example, a rookie contract, I think the majority of that money should go in the first couple of years, and then proceed from that point on. And if it's a second contract, same exact thing, so that these teams aren't exactly capped into like paying these guys out for quite a while, for 4 years or 3 years or whatever it may be. But ultimately, to answer your question, I do think all these guys coming up, running back is the most coveted position for the kids growing up, coming from whatever the little leagues all the way up. I think that regardless, they're going to end up paying. They're going to play this position. It's what's going to happen. I think running backs are going to be a little bit more versatile. Like you're going to see guys like Jahmyr Gibbs and Bijan Robinson. A lot of other talented running backs will come down the line. I don't think the running back position. Well, I do think that at some point we're going to see the end of a bell cow running backs. I think guys like Nick Chubb and Derrick Henry, we're going to see the end of that type of profile. We're going to see a lot more CMC type of guys, Aaron Jones, Austin Eckler, these type of running backs. Of course, you're going to have your mixture of here, power running backs like Jonathan Taylor, who can also catch, and Bijan Robinson. But you're going to see a lot more running backs that are able to do a combination of both, which is still, I think that kind of is required in the NFL. Your running back has to be able to catch, unless you're just a supremely talented runner like Derrick Henry and Nick Chubb. So,
I mean, I don't know, man. I feel like this problem is going to be going on for a while. Even if they, come up, get together, still feel like you can't go against the NFL ownership. Like they, once they set something in stone, it's like, hey, we're going to go with this. 30 owners, we agreed to this. Just keep it like that. We don't want to pay no running backs more than $12 million. Keep it at that. They think they don't deserve it, and that's how it is. In recent history, you see problems with running backs getting paid, and they look at it like, hey, Le'Veon Bell took $90 million at 400 rush yards, and this guy Zeke just fell off a cliff after getting paid $93 million. It's like, hey, why pay these guys this bunch of money when their life expectancy, like game expectancy, is gonna fall off after 1 to 2 years, and you got them under contract for that much money. So I mean, it's tough. I mean, for it to go, I feel like they gotta, like I'd be said, fix up the early contracts. The early years when they immediately come into the NFL, the rookie deal that they come in on. A lot of running backs don't get paid unless you're like a top first round pick. A lot of these running backs come out third round, fourth round. There's some gems. They ball out, hoop, and once they get to that fourth, fifth year, they start getting low balled. And it's like, oh, they didn't get paid their first 4 years. Now the fifth year's coming up, and they're getting low balled because they're third and fourth round pick, but they're performing. And it's tough. So I don't know what's gonna happen, but I hope Saquon gets paid.
I mean, the way that I'm thinking about this whole situation is if this position keeps on getting neglected, if owners and general managers continue to believe that they don't need to pay their running back top dollar, I don't believe that there's going to be a lot more skilled players in that position. There might be some decent players, but a lot of other players that are coming up that are looking to make it to the NFL, they might just play a different position that pays a lot more. They might be talented in other positions other than the running back position. But for me, I think my solution would be something that our RG3 mentioned a couple of days ago on Twitter. And he said something along the lines of removing both franchise tags, the non-exclusive franchise tag and the exclusive franchise tag. That's one for all players. And then for number two would be to minimize, not minimize, but take away the 4th year for running backs and only give running backs 3 years coming out of the NFL draft. So if they get drafted, they only get 3 years and then they get to hit free agency. And his goal pretty much was these running backs should be able to hit free agency as quickly as possible. And it shouldn't even just be the NFL running backs. It's everybody in any position. These guys should be able to capitalize on their skill set early instead of having to wait in year 4 or year 5, because the running backs get 4-year contracts. And he said, if a running back is good, they'll play him out for those 4 years. If he's great, they'll keep him around, franchise tag him, keep him around for that 5th year. And once they're going into that 6th year, now they have a decision to make. Now the running back that they had as a gem 2-3 years ago has a lot more mileage on him, and he was a lot cheaper back then, maybe getting paid $1 to $2 million. And now he's probably asking for about a $10 million, $11 million raise. And so I think RG3 was making a whole lot of sense when he said, it's better for these guys to kind of just jump into free agency as quickly as possible, because as we all know, the running back lifespan is about, obviously 4 to 6 years, we would say, but people's primes are probably about 2-3 years max. And so unless you're really, really good, then you probably stick around a little bit longer. But even then, the franchise is going to start questioning whether or not you're going to be able to produce at a high level, whether or not you're worth the money that they gave you 3-4 years ago. And we see each and every year, a couple of running backs have taken pay cuts because they want to stick around with the current franchise that they're on, the situation that they're in. And, obviously, if they feel like they're going to stick with what they're worth, they're not going to stick around for much longer. I mean, we saw my running back Devin could get cut in free agency because he didn't want to, take a pay cut with us, and we just didn't see him as a, viable option in our offense in comparison to the money that he was getting paid. So it just wasn't adding up. And so obviously this is something that's going to take a long time to get changed, because it's going to take for the next CBA agreement. It's going to be in 7 years. And so, and NFL players can't necessarily go on strike, but it's because obviously not everybody in the NFL is making an X amount of money like Patrick Mahomes or anything like that. So a lot of people, need to be out there and suited up. And so it's going to take some time, but I don't know, man. The running back position is a scary position, man. And, for these guys, the New York Giants, to be doing it to Saquon, it's only going to set, a precedent for the rest of the league. A lot of these guys are going to take this blueprint from the New York Giants and apply it everywhere else to a lot of their top guys. And now what happens to guys like Jonathan Taylor that come after him? What happens to guys like Najee Harris? I mean, we're already seeing it.
ATN, Breece Hall,
like
the list goes on.
We got a lot of talented running backs in the league right now that are looking to get paid real soon. And obviously with Saquon being the guy that's on the front lines losing all his money, every GM is going to follow that. And alongside Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs is another guy that's looking for his money too. And so, it's just tough right now in the running back market. And so I think eventually the New York Giants, I'm not too confident that they're going to come to an agreement with Saquon Barkley, but sooner rather than later, because if they go into week 1 with Saquon Barkley on the sidelines or at home just chilling watching this New York Giants team, it's going to be a tough sledding, especially knowing that they have the 5th hardest schedule in all of football. But with that being said, I think I'll go ahead and close it out here. Any final words before we sign off?
Man, NFL season, man, needs to come quick, and nothing hits like Sundays.
Nothing hits like Sundays, Sunday night football, you down like 15 fantasy points. You got a star player playing, you know what I'm saying? Your team on that week. It's a good vibe. Sunday night, I'm winning. I'm going on a W, so I can't wait till them Sundays come back.
I don't even want to think about NFL fantasy up until September, man. That thing stresses me out. But we talked about the NFC East tonight. In our next episode, we'll be talking about the AFC South. So look forward to that. But with that being said, we'll go ahead and close out this episode here. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. We really appreciate your love and support. We'd really appreciate it if you like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel at New Media Podcast. And for those of you that are watching us on YouTube, all of the social media handles will be at the end of this video. And if you listen to us on Apple and Spotify, if you go to our Instagram page at New Media Podcast, you'll be able to navigate yourself to all of our social media handles there. So once again, thank you so much for tuning in. And of course, we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.
Record a new hit, then we making us a film. Wouldn't sign a deal if I got a couple mil. Been in the lab, now they throwing out deals. Me and now late, now that's overkill.